Alex, there has been a change at the Democratic Party level about how candidates qualify for polls. It is a change that favors Mike Bloomberg. Tell me about the change and tell me about the reaction.
Right, Ali. So the Democratic National Committee all along has required candidates to hit a polling threshold, but also to get a certain number of donors, grassroots donors online, tens of thousands, 200,000 the most recently. They've scrapped that last part, the donor threshold, which was keeping Bloomberg off the stage because he's not taking donations from anyone. Now they're saying if you hit donor threshold alone, 10%, you can get on the stage. He hasn't hit that yet, but it would create a path for him. Bernie Sanders, a lot of other progressives are outraged about this. They say the DNC is caving to somebody who's trying to buy his way onto the stage. But at the same time, I've heard some progressives saying for months that they were worried that Bloomberg wouldn't get on the stage and he wouldn't have to defend his record, because right now, all that voters are hearing is his ads that he's paid for, his media availabilities that he's paid for. Now he'll have to get on stage and have to take some tough questions. And, you know, I think it's a recognition on the part of the DNC that Michael Bloomberg is a player in this race, whether people want him to be or not. He's already spent $200 million. He's going to matter, and this will now potentially put him on the stage with the other candidates.
Danielle, what do you make of it? Of Bloomberg. You're giving me your face. The face, I wish the camera were on her face. I'm going to just ask my director, anytime I say anything, just be on her face. The other day, she posted something. We posted a video of a conversation we had the other day, and you even commented on that, on the look that you had. So I'm thinking you're not digging this.
I'm not digging it. I don't think that you should be able to buy your way into an election. I don't think that when we put up the numbers of how much the other candidates have spent, Bloomberg has spent $200 million. That is not the American people saying, you know what? I'm a constituent of yours. You know what? Your message is speaking to me. No, it means that I am bought and sold. And the fact is that—
But he's by himself. It's nobody else's money.
But that's the problem with our electoral system right now, is the fact that Bloomberg can walk in, he can spend $1 billion, he could spend $2 billion, he could spend $3 billion, and it wouldn't hurt him at all. It would be like looking for change underneath your couch. Do you know what I'm saying? That's problematic to me. And so I want his ideas to have resonated with the American people so much. That's why he's rising in the polls. I don't want him to be rising in the polls because he's bought every single television station, radio station, podcast, and he's just playing ads up and down. We will see Super Bowl night will happen tomorrow, and we will see Bloomberg ads as he's the quarterback that is winning the Super Bowl. That's what's happening right now, and I think that that's problematic. Why didn't the DNC decide to change the rules before most of the people of color were out of the race? Because they don't have the money, right? Like, why didn't they decide then? Why are you deciding now, of all times, like, oh, we're going to change our rules so that Bloomberg has a time on the stage, so we're okay with making sure that billionaires have time and space, but not people of color? Come on, that doesn't make any sense to me. And until somebody lays it out as to how the decision was made, that's how it looks, and it doesn't feel right.
Okay, putting aside how the choice occurs, good or bad, that Mike Bloomberg will now have greater prominence in the race. Whether or not it's fair that the way he got there, good or bad, if the ultimate goal is choosing somebody who can defeat Donald Trump.
I think it's good because at the end of the day, he's polling now in the top 5 in national polls. To have someone that's polling that high not be held accountable on a debate stage for his ideas, not to be challenged by anchors and by his fellow candidates, to give them the opportunity to engage, because they can't fight him dollar for dollar on television. They can't fight him with his war chest. The only opportunity a lot of these candidates are going to have to distinguish themselves from Bloomberg and not give him a free path is to hold him accountable on a debate stage, on TV, in public, and challenge him. And I think that's good for the candidates, rather than letting Bloomberg just spend his way right to the convention and not ever have to confront them.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, he is a real positive force in this election now, because the money he is spending, most of these ads, even though they mention him, a lot of them are being aired in the key battleground states, and they're all directed at undermining Donald Trump, showing where he's failed.
Yeah, they're like Biden ads. They're all Trump-focused.
They're very Trump-focused.
Yeah.
I mean, really laser-focused on the economy, laser-focused on healthcare, laser-focused on Medicare, Social Security. I mean, he is hitting Donald Trump where it hurts him the most. And It's the only money we've got in there that is anti-Trump money. Nobody else can come close. The Democratic National Committee ought to be the one doing this, but they don't have.
He's running general election ads.
Right, but he's doing it, and it's very, very effective. And on top of that, he's also committed, whether he wins or loses, to keep his entire staff intact to help whoever becomes the nominee.
Eugene, this is an interesting commitment that Bloomberg made, because the one thing he's got a data operation that is very strong, and he's got the money, and he said that he will support whoever the nominee is, something that not every candidate has been as clear on. But who do you think gains or loses the most from the elevation of Mike Bloomberg by the Democratic Party at this moment?
Well, probably at this moment, someone like Amy Klobuchar, who's been having a very difficult time getting traction as a whole, particularly with black voters. One thing Bloomberg has been able to do is actually get some relatively high-profile black endorsements from mayors.
Yeah, Steve Benjamin, Mike Nutter.
As a mayor.
Bowser.
Yeah.
Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And that's really important, considering that his track record on issues related to race, such as stop and frisk, are something that black voters really are going to want to hear more from. And I'm sure that if he gets on a debate stage, he'll have to answer questions on those issues in a way that he's not able to in a well-produced commercial or online advertisement trying to get voters to pick him.
Alex, any response from the Bloomberg campaign about this? I mean, there's some sense, as you've heard from this discussion, that this seems to be designed around Michael Bloomberg. Is that the case, or has the Democratic Party said something else?
Well, the Bloomberg campaign has said they are thrilled. That's the word that they use. So I think you can see why some on the other side who don't like him were offended by this, that he's so happy. The Democratic National Committee, meanwhile, says that this was their plan all along, although they didn't tell us that until this moment. They basically said that the donor threshold and the polling was important before any votes were cast. But now that we're actually heading into the caucuses on Monday and then New Hampshire after that, we'll have real results from voters. So the other way that you can get on the stage, in addition to the polls going forward, is if you get delegates out of Iowa, out of New Hampshire, and going forward. Michael Bloomberg isn't competing here. He's not competing in any of the early states, but that will guarantee that anyone like a Pete Buttigieg, a Bernie Sanders, a Joe Biden, anyone who gets a delegate will have a spot on the next debate stage. So it'll get smaller likely, but not a whole lot smaller. If you only get one delegate, I think a lot of people are going to get that in that upper, 4 or 5 candidates.
Alex Seitz-Wald and Eugene Scott, both reporting from Iowa. Eugene, I love having you on. I've never seen Casual Saturday Night, Eugene. I like the look. Thank you for joining me, my friend. Coming up next, while the impeachment trial is winding down, President Trump still has more legal woes ahead of him. The Supreme Court setting the date for arguments in court as Democrats and prosecutors seek the president's financial records.